The preview for Star Wars issue 108 is finally out, and now we have some idea of what this mysterious comic will be about before it's released this upcoming Wednesday. The exclusive preview is on Multiversity Comics, and I'll include a link in the description if you want to check it out before I start discussing it. The preview is a mere 6 pages, but there's a lot of information we can glean from it already. As we've already learned when this comic was first announced, it's going to be sort of a sequel to Marvel's Star Wars issue 50, Crimson Forever, where Luke Skywalker falls victim to an illness called the Crimson Forever. So for this issue, I have no doubt that it will come back into play, especially if we look at the title of issue 108 that we have now learned, Forever Crimson. It's pretty clever and I dig it. Apparently this issue is going to be split up into 8 chapters, with different artists working on each one. Given the amount of people that have all worked on this, it really seems like there's been a lot of passion put into the story. I'm looking forward to Chapter 4 in particular, because I love Jan Dushaima's work on previous Star Wars comic series, like Republic, Legacy, and Dawn of the Jedi. But I bet the rest of the comic will look just as good. So in this preview, which appears to cover the first of the 8 chapters, we open with someone telling a story about Valance the Hunter, a cyborg bounty hunter who was a minor antagonist for a few issues in the original Marvel Star Wars comics. But I think our narrator might be embellishing a little bit. Even Boba Fett trembled at his name. Yeah, I'm sure. Anyway, he goes into detail about who Valance is, and even compares him to a Vornsker, a canine beast that hunts using the Force, which at least according to Wikipedia is only part of the Legends universe, and not the new canon, perhaps as a way of cementing its placement within the original canon. Where this preview kind of deviates from the EU is when Valance is mentioned as fighting in the Clone Wars, which was not something previously established in the expanded universe. So this could be a contradiction, though it could be attributed to an unreliable narrator who doesn't have all the facts about Valance. Or it could be a retcon. If it is a retcon, it's a very minor one that doesn't throw the whole timeline out of whack, and, in fact, kind of adds to Valance's character a bit. As a grunt in the Clone Wars, he already has an ingrained hatred towards droids. Then the comic tells about how Valance was injured in an attack and had a lot of his body rebuilt as a cyborg, which we know from his history told to us in the original Marvel comics. He then was discharged from the Empire and became a bounty hunter that hated droids, because they reminded him of himself. Then when he saw the compassion between Luke and C-3PO, it made him change his ways. On the planet Centaurus, he actually protected them from Darth Vader. Valance and Vader had a battle over a lake of acid, which was actually really epic in the original comics, and I highly recommend you check it out. Unfortunately, Vader defeated Valance and dropped him into Ruby Flame Lake, where we cut to current day and see who has been speaking about Valance this whole time. There's a crew of smugglers on Centaurus searching through scrap, looking for stuff to sell, and the Twi'lek Dazzler is trying to convince his captain that the story about Valance is true, but she doesn't believe him about that, or about his stories about the witches of Dathomir who rode Rancors. As they're moving out, we can see in the foreground of the last panel a skull that seems part mechanical, confirming that Dazzler's story is indeed true. And that's the whole preview. I thought it was pretty alright. It made me interested in what the rest of the story will be about. I already am very familiar with the original Marvel comics, and I know it's going to make callbacks to them, like Jackson, Amazia Foxtrain, and the Crimson Forever virus, but I'm not yet sure how those elements will come into play. So, I'm very intrigued. I think Matthew Rosenberg, when writing this, took the Legends moniker in the most literal sense, having someone talk about an old EU character as if it were a legend. Now, my biggest fear with 108 is that it would try to tie into the new canon, and maybe have some new canon characters talk about the expanded universe as if it were a bunch of myths and tall tales. Funnily enough, we almost have that here. But first off, these characters don't appear to be part of the new canon, at least as far as I'm aware. I couldn't find anything about Dazzler, so I'm guessing they are characters made and introduced in the story. Number 2, we see Valance's skull, so I'm guessing with that, the mention of Vornskers, and witches on Dathomir who rode Rancors, which they do in the EU, but not in the new canon, I believe. This story, as far as I can tell, takes place in the Legends universe, and Dazzler is just telling his friends this story as a narrative device to also let us, as the audience, know who Valance is. In the introduction article for issue 108, Matthew Rosenberg said he wanted to tell a story that would appeal to both new and old readers. So this introduces newcomers to Valence's story, and reintroduces Valence to the hardcore EU fans who already knew about him. Regardless, this seems to be letting us know as the readers that Valence, or at least his legacy, will play an important role in the next 7 chapters. Other than that, I don't have much else to say except I'm ready for the whole issue to come out now. What are your guys' thoughts? Does it make you more or less excited for issue 108? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments.